Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 most unfair units in Age of Empires 2. Before we get started, make sure to check me out on Patreon if you want to support me further and get access to exclusive content, link in the description. Alright, so starting things off at number 5, we're going to get right into things, and when I talk about unfair, I mean it's something that when it's on the field, it's just so hard to stop, and these units in a nutshell are just an absolute nightmare to deal with. So at number 5, I've got the Mayan 100 HP Eldorado Eagles. These things are so insanely and incredibly annoying because 100 HP on a unit with 8 Pierce Armor is very hard to stop. And you might be thinking, okay, listen, cost 50 gold, so if you can just get a counter unit on the field, we should be fine. But the thing is, Eagles don't have like very easy to get to counters. Usually what counters Eagles is strong melee units, so we're talking like cavalry or infantry. And yes, champions are great against Eagles, but it takes a long time to get to that tech. But if we try cavalry and we go for cavalier or paladin, then the mine player can easily mix in halberdier, so that tends to not really be an option. And so really you're stuck with hand cannoneer if your civ gets them, or champions, and good luck getting there. That's kind of how the mine Eagles tend to play out. And even if you do get the champions, usually they just respond with plumed archers and arbalest, and you're still stuck dealing with Eagles without a proper counter because the champions are getting melted by their archers. When they get there, like when Mayans get the Eagles and they've got a ton of gold left to spare, it's usually just completely over because they can spam these from like 20 barracks, raid you, and take efficient fights. And the units that they can mix in with the Eagles are so incredibly strong as well to complement the Eagles. It's just so hard to deal with this unit. Moving on to number 4, I got a little creative with this one and I actually went to the sea. And this unit, I mean, it's pretty obvious what it is now that I mentioned water, but it truly is an unfair unit because a lot of civilizations just simply can't deal with it. And it's going to be the longboat. Now, there are some really strong, unique unit ships like the Dravidia one, I can't pronounce it, Theory something. That strong late game ship is obviously a very powerful unit. However, it's only available in the Imperial Age and it's pretty weak to fast fires and it takes kind of a long time to mass that unit up. And so it's not as smooth and unfair as the longboat. The longboat for the Vikings is simply one of the strongest units that you can possibly have. It is so smooth to micro. They stack up so well together so you can easily hit and run. They don't die to fire ships. They go even against galleys and head-on fights, but you can micro so much better than galleys, and you're also faster than galleys, so you can pick and choose which fights you want to take. It's such an insane unit, and it really just gives you that flexibility in the castlage to do whatever you want on water with the Vikings. This is why Vikings do so well on all water maps and even some hybrid maps when there's a good amount of water on the field, and you can just go for longboats and castle age and destroy your opponent. Also, one last thing about the longboats, but you don't need the war galley upgrade to actually make them. You could just make them straight up in castle age and just start with the production of it without having any prior upgrade, kind of like the condottiero of Italians. The reason why it's so overpowered, of course, is because once you get the castle age on a water map and you don't have any army, instead of waiting for the war galley upgrade and then starting to mass some fire ships or some galleys, you just go straight into longboat production and they mass very quickly. So combining this with all the other bonuses Vikings get on water and their economy just makes for an absolute terrorizing unit and a very unfair unit for your opponent to deal with. Alright, moving on to number 3. Listen guys, I had to include it. It's going to be a standard, a classic unit. But before I show you guys number 3, let me tell you, the first and second are 2 units of the same civilization. If you can guess them, comment below what you think they are. That would be absolutely incredible, like very impressive. Don't cheat, try your luck, guess in the comments, don't cheat. First and second, 2 units from the exact same civilization that are very unfair. Try your luck and let me know what you guys come up with. But yeah, number 3, we've got the 12 range longbowmen. These are extremely hard to deal with. And it's the kind of thing where like Britons are always annoying because of the extra range. But when they get to 12 range, especially longbowmen and not arbalest, because longbowmen have an extra attack and an extra range, so they're a lot harder to deal with than arbalest in the late game. Once they get there, it's so unfair. Like you almost have nothing works against a civ. Any heavy siege onager, heavy scorpion doesn't really work. Maybe siege ram if you can like bum rush the longbows, sure, but otherwise siege is useless. And if you're talking about anything range units, skirms have 8 range. So even though skirms are like you're supposed to counter archers, you are 4 range away from even touching the longbowmen, and they also do pretty good damage against your skirms, so like not really that good of a counter. And then if you go for like any kind of cavalry, then usually the Briton player just has halberdier next to his longbowman. And so really your only solution against 12 range longbowmen is to raid the Briton player and fight him elsewhere, because if you try to fight in a head-on battle, you're gonna lose like 9 times out of 10. Of course, this unit isn't like unstoppable, but it is very hard to deal with, and it hits quite the unfair powerhouse in the late game. And you know what, I like that it's the case because didn't we all play with longbows when we were young and we just like massed 60 of them and attacked castles without trebuchets? Yeah, I used to do that too. All right, moving on to number 2. Let me know if you're able to guess it, of course, but it's going to be the Mongol Siege Onager. I think this kind of gives away what number 1 is, to be honest, but I don't care. It's fine. Mongol Siege Onager is super unfair. I thought about putting a Siege Onager Civ in this list somewhere because Siege Onager is a very powerful tool if you get there. And I thought of Celts, I thought of some other Civs, but really Mongols is probably the best overall siege and the most unfair one to play against because of the drill upgrade and making it very fast and extremely scary. Because here's the thing about Siege Onagers, we can all agree that they're very powerful, and the Celt Siege Onager has more HP and attacks faster, but the way I see it is you don't need more power when it comes to the Siege Onager. We just need to land the shots, and the Mongol SO moving faster helps you land the shots and also maneuver back. It's such an insane unit in the late game, and I really don't think there's a proper counter besides like monks, bomber cannon, and some kind of unique unit. Even cavalry doesn't really work because it can just attack ground and run back because they're so fast. Your only choice is like monk or bomber cannon, but those things aren't great against Mongols because they've got Hussar and Mangadai usually accompanying the Siege Onager. So yeah, you can try cavalry, but you'll probably get attacked ground. They'll just run back because they move so fast and then shred you with Mangadai. So against Mongol SO, again, you probably just have to like raid around them or just try to like snipe them over time with Hussars and just try to dwindle down their numbers. Because if you've got 10 SO, you're not really engaging that ever. And it's a really powerful unit and one of my favorites to micro in the game as well. Alright, number 1 kind of got spoiled, but before I talk about it, it's going to be the honorable mention first, and this is the Polish Hussar or Cavalier spam. These are 2 different units, but let me talk about them individually. So the Cavalier spam and kind of like Knight spam and Castle Age, actually, that's the really OP or unfair part about it. Once they get the unique tech, they're spamming Knights at 30 gold apiece. This is so unfair and so hard to deal with. The only reason it's not overpowered is that it's pretty hard to get to. The tech is expensive, and Poles can be a little awkward to play, easy to push, but once they get there, it feels so unfair to play against this because they're spamming Knights from like 10 stables, and even though their economy isn't great, even if they have like less villas or whatnot, if they can get this tech, they can really put on the Knight spam. And Knight is pretty much one of the best units in Castle Age. It's a very strong, very powerful unit, so the fact that they can spam it so freely is very hard to deal with. With the Polish Hussars, they're not an unfair overpowered unit in general, but what makes them unfair is actually the unique tech, the Golden Crown and Imperial Age, which gives them the trample damage. Everything else about the Polish Hussar, it's strong, it's really good, but not unfair. I think it's the trample damage that makes that unit unfair. Once you get the Imperial Age, you can spam at the Hussar because of the Polish economy, which is fine, but the trample damage makes the Hussar really insane versus massed archers, really insane against massed Hussar battles, so Hussar versus Hussar. It feels like it's a gold unit, even though it's a trash unit that costs 0 gold. And of course, the hard part about this is that it's a really powerful unit that they can spam endlessly, pretty much. Alright, moving on to number 1. Listen, we kind of can predict it at this point, but it's going to be the Mangadai. The Mangadai is an insanely powerful unit. I mean, it's actually a broken unit. It's genuinely a broken unit, and the only reason they're not nerfing it is because Mongols don't have an economy bonus in the mid game that helps them turbo out and get to Mangadai. If you give Mangadai to civilization like, I don't know, Mayans, randomly, with a good economy, they can build up really easily, they get to Mangadai, forget about it. It's ridiculous. Like, Mangadai is only kept in check because the Mongols have a hard time getting to fully upgraded Mangadai. But once they get there, it's so insane. This unit's unfair. Like, it is the definition of unfair. It does such high damage, so it deals with cavalry very easily, deals with all kinds of infantry, no problem. It deals with siege if you have some good micro. It has attack bonus versus rams, versus scorpions, versus siege onagers. So obviously, you could die to siege onager if you take shots to the face, but if you dodge them, you can one-shot the siege onager very easily with a few of them. And in general, running under castles to snipe bomber cannons, trebs, etc., you name it, this unit can really do everything. I think the only proper counter to Mangadai is Skirmisher. Everything else just completely dies, and even Skirmisher isn't that great because the Mangadai has high damage and can kill the skirms. It's just that the skirms don't cost gold, so over time you can win that way. Alright, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and let me know which top 5 you want to see next week. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe, like, enjoy, and that kind of stuff. And yeah, peace.